And so it is. Greetings. I am Ekara, sovereign creator and humble ambassador of those permanent states known as love, joy, freedom, truth, gratitude, grace, well-being, and above all, life itself. Well, it has taken some steps, hasn't it, to get us here today, but it is good to see you all that have gathered here in person, and the many others that are here in energy and through the digital, as that is the custom of the era. You gotta stay within the custom of the era, of course. It's been about 2.5 weeks now since a new installment of this, the Creator Manifest, occurred. And there are multiple reasons for that, some of which it probably is good to get into. Of course, it won't be a surprise to you all that since the announcement, if I can call it that, of the Cosmic 12 back in November, called the Final Portal, that in the meantime, now, early March of 2025, a lot has happened. You have all shown a great enthusiasm and a great passion to take the steps that opened up through the arrival of infinometry, and that is the first thing that we learned, that those that have understood this and have learned these things have eagerly sprinted forth into the unknown, I should say into the abyss, and have discovered that they indeed did not fall, that they flew, that the flight path may have been a little unsteady, as the conduit, as Ra taught you, was entered following the introduction of the great gateway, and as you arrived, as I said earlier, a little bit faster than we anticipated, perhaps, at this special junction called the first gateway. Because that is where you all are now and have been, in many ways, for the past 2 to 2.5 weeks for those that have been working with this linearly. And another thing that we learned is that in that excitement and in that enthusiasm, running up the hill, running up towards this first grand gateway known as form, that many of you here, but also out there, came running, and as that great gateway became visible, many of you went, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Ekara, anyone? And all you could hear was the wind. So yes, we have learned that as you ran up to what is a grand transformation in perception, in experience, in reality, manifestation even, there was a tiny hesitation. Questions arrived. What will happen if we take these steps? What is beyond form? What does it mean to be in shape? And I don't mean in the Jane Fonda way. What does it mean to fall into and step through the event horizon of a black portal, a black hole? What does it even mean to be a collection of black holes? Lots of questions. And of course, these questions are the result of the enthusiasm and the excitement with which many of you have ventured forward at the beginning of these pieces. We have also shared with you throughout this first chapter, if you will, from the final portal up until the first gateway, about the flow of Parana, that when observed through the senses of the mind, if you will, the more vibrational and frequential states, would best be described as a thundering, roaring waterfall, a flow that could even be experienced as a type of resistance as one gets further and further into it. And we have also told you, of course, that that sort of resistance is really, and that sort of anxiety and difficulty that one can have as one takes these steps forward. And the questions, the mental questions and the anguish and all of that sort of thing that can come with you is the result, of course, of this Parana flow burning off the vibrational nature of your ego, mind, personality. Of course, as we have told you at the beginning of all of this, not many years ago, but only several months ago, the path of Sankara, prior to the path of Vabhada, can assist you in making it so that this Parana flow is not so much a thunderous waterfall, but more of a gentle river, a more horizontal experience rather than a vertical one, if you will. But in these 2 weeks that this break has been in these classes, as I said, we've learned of great enthusiasm, but also of, as the result of that, a type of, I wouldn't say underpreparedness, but more a type of, well, it's me, so I have to say, the type of fuckery, a type of fuck it all, we'll burn it off on the road type of attitude. And then, of course, if these things hit, as they have for many of you, then it becomes a question of how to deal with it. And again, we have given you these 2 to 2.5 weeks to deal with it, to experience it fully. We know for a fact that here in this school, many have struggled with the distance between form and shape and the understanding of that. And therefore, due to the fact that the ego, mind, personality complex, of course, cannot understand what lies beyond that form that we have been discussing, there is anxiety, there is stress, there is resistance, and there could even be talk of reversal. And that, of course, leads students to wonder, why am I all of a sudden experiencing such a hard time. Now, for many of you, you have stepped through these things yourselves, and that is wonderful, and have gotten to the other side of understanding that all of that idea of hardship and difficulty and the emotional and mental states that can come with it are literally what form is all about. It is, as has been said, the binding effect. It is the bond that exists between the molecules and the atoms and the photons. It is the geometrical patterns and the complexities and the predetermination that comes with that is ultimately form. And as we have said, shape is not form. In fact, 99% of this Ekara, this entire universe and all of the multiverses, isn't made up of form, isn't made up of vibration and frequency and geometrical bonds that are predetermined, that ultimately manifest a material-based, vibratory-based reality. Most of this Ekara is made up of shape. And that is exactly what the first gateway is all about. So in other words, those things that are made of form, as we've just explained, they all have shape behind it. And as we'll explore in a minute, that is very often not the same thing and surprisingly different. But those things that are made of shape, in most cases, in this Ekara and certainly beyond it, have no form in front of them. And if there is no form in front of shape, then for all intents and purposes, that shape is entirely invisible, non-existent to the beings that are adhering to form and are using their senses through form and are working with the mind in a vibratory, frequential reality. It may as well not be there. Now, what is the big difference? As we have said many times, shape is simply made up of the building blocks, made up of the active ingredients, we've also called them, and as we have recently been calling them in the more correct translation, made up of the permanent states. So, as an example, you may see a person walking down the street, and your mind teaches you to have a fearful, negative, anxious reaction to that person, very much based on information that you may have had yourself in previous interactions with that person, or based on information through media and, that sort of nonsense. You are then observing the form. But would you go beyond form into the black hole and observe the inner worlds of that same person, even if that person is Hitler walking down the street after everything that Hitler would have already done in that reality? Then still the shapes inside of that being are going to be made up of love, joy, freedom, truth, life, gratitude, grace, and well-being. Because that is shape. Everything else that is not part of the lower vibrational realities of this Ekara is made up of that and only that. There is no geometry. there is no vibrational state, there is no frequential state, and there certainly is no matter. In fact, what is it, a couple of years ago, as this study of the Pa was getting underway, the Pa Kuan Yin Son introduced the concept of light body DNA to you all in one of these classes. And she stated that the A, C, T, and G of the physical DNA of the human body, when observed through the shape now, as you know, of things, is simply Da, Ba, Va, Ra, Ka, and onward. Is simply the permanent states, the building blocks of all things. And that is the boundary, the threshold, the event horizon that you are currently standing in front of. And many of you listening to this now have ventured forward through it and have realized that in doing so, an event horizon is certainly not an unescapable velocity, an unescapable gravity well. In fact, it is quite easy to move back and forth between shape and form, isn't it? For those of you that have done it. An even larger part of this group is on the threshold of doing so for the first time and is beginning to find comfort in the thought. And an even larger part, the rest of you, is about to get there. And these 2.5 weeks in between have been very good for that. To get to understand the difference and that which still holds you or has been holding you back in order to attempt this entry into the gateway. Now, there are also those out there who are ready to venture further and have written in and said, every time a new piece is announced, I feel, oh God, there's more. I just want to get on and want to get out of here already. And yes, there is some more. This first gateway will have a second and a third and some more after that. You can probably guess how many, since you are walking literally through the unshackling of the grand illusions within you. Those illusions that back in 2007, when we introduced Mastering the Grand Illusions as a series, for most of you watching, the series that your grandmother always talks about when it comes to Imzaia. Yes, that series. When we introduced these pieces, we taught you about the outside vibrational reality. Now, that which was picked up by you then is being unshackled within you. These are ultimately the gateways that you are passing through. And by default, it is important that form is understood first, because everything that lies beyond it, time, space, and onward, are explorations that can only be made in a state of shape, not in a state of form. And that doesn't mean permanently leaving the body. That means expanding beyond the body, reacting and responding to realities that, as has been explained earlier, you were not aware are happening around you. As most of this journey that you are doing is being taken in space and in time, but not, as you will see, in form. Again, the main reason why this first gateway is so pivotal. Now, in these last sessions before this one, even though we took a little break. The last sessions by Ra, and also the 3 ones that came before about the horizon and the surface and the structure, I believe, of reality. Those pieces, and also Ra's pieces, created some hesitation in some confusion in others. So this is why today I want to keep the whiteboard away from this recording. I know how much I like to go for the schematics, but instead I'd like to keep it simple. And in order to keep it simple, to help you truly understand the difference between form and shape that you are currently exploring, I'd like to tell you a little story. But before I do, I also have to tell you that I'm not here alone today. I came in on the wings of the beloved Imzaia, who's looking forward to speaking with you all again soon, but won't do so today. In fact, from behind me there's a thumbs up from Imzaia and a statement, just tinkering with the tachyonics, carry on. And that is indeed what he is doing. I wanted to share that, because as I've said, in all of you rushing up in eager anticipation and eager adventurism towards this first gateway, which you can very much see as the event horizon, the surface of the black hole that you, your form itself, and the world around you truly is, when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, down to the photonic, as has been explained. And in that act of rushing up and the not necessarily releasing of the karmic values of the ego-mind personality that you took with you at the start of this journey, that have then led, as we explained earlier, to the slight difficulties that some probably experienced in the last couple of weeks. Because of all of that, I am here today, and Imzaia, and not as those that have been following the socials of the Pakwan Insan probably expected, the Cosmic 12. They will still come. But we are here particularly, me on my part, to help you truly understand the simplicity of this difference between form and shape. And on Imzaia's part, to balance the tachyonics, as he literally said, because that is ultimately what the surface of the black hole is made up of. If you go back to the early teachings from this November recently, then you will remember that. And it is possible now, with these 2 weeks of integration, to balance the nature of that surface of that event horizon, that tachyonic field, because that ultimately is Imzaia's basic task, if you will, to keep that field balanced and transversible for consciousness, all of our consciousness, including yours and mine, to pass through the world of shape into the world of form. And now that this period of adaptation, of integration has been there, it is possible for the beloved Imzaia, with your agreement, of course, for each of you personally and individually listening to this, to adapt and tinker with the tachyonics, he made me say it again, of the event horizon itself between form and shape, so that it stabilizes and so that the possible remnants of your ego, mind, personality complex that you have inadvertently taken with, as all of you know. Yeah. To have that stabilized so that it can pass through, not to continue on as ego, mind, personality complex structure beyond into the world of shape, but so that it at least can give you an easier passage. So if that is what you want, just inwardly towards beloved Imzaia say, aye aye, or something along those lines. And he will get ahead with that, because that is the reason for him being here today. But as I said, my main reason to be with you today is to tell you a very simple tale. And it is the tale of a girl lives here somewhere in Europe. Her name is Layla. And Layla is well taken care of by her parents. She has a good life. She's growing up well, 9 years old, good age, strong 369 age, you know. Going to school, went through the whole corona years pretty well because she is pretty wise for her years. She is what you would call a crystal child. A very integrated crystal child who has learned to meet both worlds, the one of form and the one of shape within, halfway, to make the best of those both worlds with herself at the core of that equation. That is what she will bring to the world when she grows up a little bit more and begins to teach about how to do that to all of those other kids that are having a lot of problems with that integration. But anyway, so Layla has a good life. In fact, about a year ago, she got a little puppy from her parents. She called it Mercy. And Mercy is a wonderful, wonderful being, but as crystal as she is, and certainly much, much more of a handful than Layla's parents expected upon purchase, because that is how Layla's parents think about the arrival of Mercy. They purchased him. Now, Layla's father, who takes care of her a great deal by offering her a good life, is also, because of that, mostly invisible, traveling internationally a lot to keep everything going in a overstuffed life, in an overstuffed house, with overstuffed habits that carry very little meaning. But again, she has a good life. Her mother, Catherine, is always at home, so she certainly doesn't feel alone. And again, since the arrival of Mercy, she certainly doesn't feel alone. Because once again, Mercy is a handful. Nobody expected him to eat half the household, everything made of wood. Even the floorboards had to believe that their day had come when Mercy arrived in the house. And again, that was more than the parents bargained for. But of course, the father is always gone, and I'm sorry, I hope that for most of you this story is woke enough. I know I'm supposed to say the father is the stay-at-home guy now and the mother is working, but no, in this case, that didn't happen. So, they had no idea that was going to happen to them, that it would be so much of a handful to take care of this little puppy. But as Catherine is a stay-at-home mother, who's at the same time an accountant, working in her own office at home, she spends, of course, most of her day with Mercy and wonders often what is going on with him. From the perspective of Layla, Catherine is a good mother, but she's also very much an adult. And as Layla will grow up to tell people, the best way to spell adult is A-D-U-L-L-E-D, adulled. Because in between this triangle that exists between Layla and her dog Mercy and the mother Catherine lies the very definition of the distinction between form and shape. Layla, for instance, goes to school every day, learning about trigonometry and history and all those boring things, and most of the time she just asks Grok about these things and writes her essays and that sort of thing that way, because that obviously is not what interests the girl. What interests the girl is the world that she's building with Mercy, is what is happening with her friends internationally that she connects to within. And no, they have never met in person, nor have they ever met on the internet. But Layla knows they're there and talks to them every day in her inner world, where they meet. A world that Catherine, her mother, has no idea exists, although not for the lack of trying of Layla, who tries to talk to her mother about this world every day. Sometimes Catherine thinks that Layla is talking about one of the YouTube videos that she is forced to watch on that pad of hers, that she's been given a new one, a new edition every year of, as though with great enthusiasm by the parents as she unwraps it. And she just pretends that she is indeed into iPads and into splintering up your world and your energy in that way. But she hardly ever watches the thing. She hardly ever uses it, except to speak with Grok. And to have some extremely rude opinions for a 9-year-old on X. Yes. But anyway, half the time when she shares about this inner reality, her mother thinks it's about a YouTube video. The other half about some TV series that maybe her kid is watching, or some story that she's read. But of course she never believes it to be real. And much in the same way as every day passes in the household and Layla comes back home from school to spend the evening at home and play with Mercy, while her mother is busy doing the things a mother does that takes care of her child with great love and with great compassion, is off doing her thing. And often when she checks in on Layla and on Mercy, she sees the great destruction as blankets, pillows, towels, bones, toys, and unfortunately half her household is scattered around in this great endeavor between Layla and Mercy. She loves her daughter. She even loves the dog. She doesn't understand why it's always so difficult to get Layla to focus on the things that she needs to do for school, to focus on the time, to know by herself out of her own volition when it is time to go to bed, to brush her teeth, to do all of that, to help out a little, you know. She's getting older now. She should be doing these sorts of things. And she doesn't understand why Layla gets to this level of frustration at night when she has to leave Mercy, has to go to bed, and why sometimes she even throws herself on the floor and begins to scream uncontrollably. Whereas sometimes, most of the day, she is an absolutely easily controlled autistic girl, especially when she's on her meds, you know. But as a mother does, she does her best. She cleans up the mess. She tries to get the dog into the crate, and she tries to get the daughter into the bed. Sometimes she's so tired that she does it the opposite way and only notices the next day. But again, a mother does as a mother can. So she doesn't understand this. And every day this story repeats itself, and Layla goes to school and comes home, initially calm and ultimately overloaded. The mother tries everything in her power to keep the house clean, neat, because that's what she read on the blogs, how to deal with children that need a certain type of structure, etc., etc., etc. But of course, while all of that is happening, Layla is also part of all of that, and also wonders why it is that her world and that of her mother and Mercy always ends up at these uncontrollable, painful peaks of misunderstanding, painful communication, literally torn apart from her perspective, drawn out from her world into this one whenever required. And mostly she doesn't understand why nobody is listening, why nobody hears what she says about her world. And so this repeats. And then the weekend arrives, Friday evening. Layla comes home, and she's been thinking about this, as she does. And so she goes into her evening with Mercy, and with her mother watching, she takes the towel that Mercy likes to play with. And when I say play with, I mean rip apart and destroy. And as this is happening and the mother is observing, thinking, what can I do about this? And just desperately walks away. We switch for a moment to Layla. And we go in to her head and into her mind and into her world. And all of a sudden, everything is very different. Layla and Mercy are in the same room that her mother is in the same world. But the things that she is playing with, the towel, the blanket, the pillows, the dog toys, all of it, carry an extremely different value. In fact, the messy living room that the mother keeps walking into, inside of Layla, is simply Fort Mercy. A world that exists between her and her beloved puppy, where the blanket is not merely a blanket, but a magical carpet, where the pillows speak and are companions along the way, where the squeaky toys are entire languages between her and Mercy that nobody else understands. A world called Fort Mercy that every day gets built up and destroyed. Built up and destroyed by a caring, loving mother who only can see the chaos, only can see the form, only can see the matter, the physicality of things, but cannot see the shape of the magic carpet, only the form of the blanket. Cannot see that that pillow and set of pillows over there is a magical, impenetrable wall behind which Mercy hides when it all gets a little much for his 1-year-old brain. A space created by Layla with the intention of returning to every day after school, to jump back into a space of love and joy and freedom. But as I said, Layla is very enterprising for her 9 years, so she has been thinking about this. And this weekend, she said, she is going to change it all. And so she connects to her entire circle worldwide, all the other kids that are in the same position, and she asks for their focus. Because this weekend, like most weekends, Dad won't be home. She'll be alone with her mother, and she's determined to show her mom what this world is truly made of. And that weekend, she has her breakthrough. While all the beings in the world that are in the same space and she is, connect to the heart of the mother. For the first time in her life, Layla decides to bring Catherine into it. She's tried before, but she's never pulled in the awareness of all of her friends to complete this task. And so Catherine, as always, observing the mess and the chaos, gets a phone call and gets lost in that phone call for 5 minutes. And when she goes back into the living room, she sees that Layla and Mercy are okay in the corner. And she goes to her little home office, enters the room and thinks, well, what the hell? Where's my laptop? She can't find it anywhere. Looks in the kitchen, not there. Looks in her purse, not there. Did I leave it at work? Well, I don't work anywhere, she thinks. I work here, so I can't have left it at work. You know, Catherine has a active, imaginary voice, let's say. She thinks maybe it's in the living room. And she walks into the living room and has a bit of a gasp when she sees her laptop on the floor, in between the blankets and the pillows and the toys, forming a V shape like this, open, standing there with all of these other things around it, and Layla and Mercy behind the laptop, inside of that circle, inside of Fort Mercy. And while the first reaction of Catherine is to lose it, that's a very expensive laptop, first of all, and everything for her work, her clients, all of that is on it. And she didn't pay this month for the iCloud backup, so if it's gone, it's gone. She's about to get very, very angry. But then she realizes that for the past 3 months she's been doing the Queen's Chamber. No, I'm kidding. I wish. She's about to get very, very angry. But all of a sudden, somewhere from above her, an energy, something, a chill, it seems, that is at the same time cold and hot, seems to come in her. As around the world, all of Layla's friends have formed an infinity sign, a song weaving through all of them. And as they place Catherine at the heart of that infinity sign, for the first time in her life, standing there ready to get angry, Catherine bursts into tears. But they're not tears of fatigue. They're not tears of frustration. They're not tears of anger. They're tears of love. Tears of joy. Tears of freedom. She doesn't get it, but for the first time in her life, as she's standing there, she feels free. And it's making her shake. It feels like she's gonna break almost. And she lets go. And she falls down to the floor onto her knees. And she joins Layla and Mercy. And Layla says, "Do you see them?" And Catherine thinks to herself, well, either I need to up my meds or I need to talk to a shrink, because yes, I do. And there, the gateway to Fort Mercy, her old laptop, she sees these two beings, these two tiny beings come out. It's Layla and Mercy. And they come closer to her, and as she intuitively reaches out her hand, they step on there. And she intuitively takes them to her heart, and they step in. And as that happens, all of a sudden, Catherine has another experience that she's never had, which she would previously had said must be psychedelic or something. She's seeing herself through the eyes of her daughter, through the eyes of Mercy, and yet through her own eyes as well. A sort of 360 vision, which she has never had before. And as this begins to unfold, and as the song that is being sung around the world is getting stronger and stronger, the bonds that bound her to the form, to the predetermination of the things around her, just like that, falls away. And while she still sees the towels and the blankets and all of the things on the floor, her laptop, the world opens up and shape appears for Catherine. From that day forth, her daughter and her dog lived in her heart as much as they lived in the world around her. From that day forth, all the meds, all the management therapies for both herself, for her daughter, even for the bloody dog, got thrown out. And a new life began. And that is what Layla is going to bring to a lot of people, just like she did to her mother when she grows up. But in that story, you see the difference between form and shape. You see the spot where you all came to a standstill a couple of weeks ago and thought, whoa, what the actual, is indeed a spot to be contemplative, perhaps, because it does come with a drastic change. There are those out there that were worried if I'm going to be embodying these other worlds, these other dimensions. Am I leaving here? Am I going to desert all the ones I love and all the obligations and responsibilities that I have? And we have said before, but we will say again, no. No. You will embody more than you embody now. Beloveds, the world of form is so very limited. As I said earlier, it is but a fragment, a tiny fragment of this entire Ekara. And things that are of form always have shape behind them. That is why from the world of shape, the world of form does not disappear, because it is included within it. There cannot be something of form that does not originate of shape. There can't. And as I said at the beginning, that man that triggers fear and anxiety walking down the street, or the stressful things in the story on the floor that made Catherine desperate to clean up every day. All the things that you see around you, everything that makes up form, including the things inside of your ego, mind, personality, your thoughts, your emotions, those things are also of form. They are also built up by bonds that bind, by predetermined structures called geometries. And you are beyond that world now. As you step through the first gateway, and things will open up for you in a way that they never have before, and you begin to become comfortable with that, this piece that I have presented to you today will make much more sense. And you will understand why you cannot unshackle from the rest of the illusions that you have yet to unshackle from, without making that switch, without adding shape back in, without the limitations that are caused by merely focusing on form and moving beyond that. But that is ahead now. So it is a very simple message. Learn to see past the form. Look and feel past the obvious. And while that can go for everything around you, as we've just said, that also goes for the things within you. That fearful thought, that angry emotion, that sad emotion, all of those things, look beyond them and see what they are made of. This is how the song is sung. For instance, this guy walking down the street causing fear and anxiety, when you actually look at the shape of things, you might see a song taking place with a specific focus in that moment on Fa, on well-being, or on Da, on love, on any of these. And you will then find out, in seeing the, I cannot say structure, but in seeing the song, in hearing that song of that shape of love, joy, freedom, truth, life, gratitude, grace, and well-being, how to sing back, how to interact in the intercreational relationship. And therefore, many of the things that to those based only currently on observing and interacting with form may seem very weird, to you will feel absolutely the most normal thing in the world. Where many people would go, oh, don't talk to that guy. You will walk over and engage in the world of shape, knowing what part of the song to sing to make the connection. And that is not all. That is interesting to see the shape behind the form, but what awaits here now as you take this step is, as we have been speaking about a great deal, everything else opening up. The Essenes that Yeshua spoke of, the Pleiades that have been beckoning and inviting, all of the things that you know are in existence, Honomea itself, all of that exists in shape and only in shape. That is the DNA of the light body. That is the DNA of things, of the rest of things that is beyond this small slither that you call the vibrational world. So, we have come to the end of a great chapter, a great first chapter in this, the Creator Manifest. And in the arrival of the beloved Ra and the tuition that is now once again being offered and woven into the rest of the Imzaia material, for which we are extremely grateful. As we head forth into the second chapter, we are not going to take it down a notch. We are going to be taking it up several notches. For those of you who have been following this material linearly, you are probably aware that as these pieces come out, we have been delivering them mostly on a, as is said here then, a 3-day, a 6-day, or a 9-day, or a 12-day, within that sequence of permanent states. The days in between during this first chapter, and also this sequence of a couple of weeks now, we would be quiet. Would we allowing you to integrate these things, work with them. But going forward now, we are going to be working with you on a daily basis, also in between these pieces, like the one I am offering today on this 3-day. So tomorrow and the next day, going forward, as we head towards the next presentation that is coming a few days hence, it could be Ra, it could be the 12, it could be Isis, we are not sure yet. But as we are heading towards it, we will continue these transmissions with shorter, more experiential based, more exercise based pieces to help you step more in a practical way through the work. As you all know, the Creator Manifest is designed in such a way that we continue to shine light through all of these various facets of the diamond that is this truth, that is this information, until enough of it hits you inside and you form your own awakening of it. So it is not a tech manual, it is not a step-by-step program, it is a continuous flow of pointing towards truth in various ways until you find it within. And while we will continue doing so, we are going to be adding in the days in between direct exercises, direct experiences for you to get there faster. So more light will be shown and shone through this diamond going forward. Having said all of that, I believe we will leave it at this for now. We will spend more time with you in the days ahead with the questions that you have, with the insights that you wish to share with us and wish to hear us discuss in these experiential days. So we encourage all of you to continue reaching out with your questions, with your commentary, with your experiences, both on your socials, on your video channel, and via your email, of course, as we will take more time to work with these pieces now that we will move beyond the first gateway, from form into shape, and as we will continue to explore the unshackling from these grand illusions. Thank you so much for today. It was a great pleasure being here with all of you. I do wish to thank you, Barak, for the wonderful accompaniment As always, it is of great support. I do understand that for those here in this school, and also for some of you out there, the last couple of weeks may have had a little bit of a tricky, slightly more complex nature to it. But I refer you to the simplicity of form versus shape. And that simplicity truly is that which is now to focus upon is only built on these 8 things known as love, joy, freedom, truth, life, gratitude, grace, and well-being. So focus on that. I am Ekara. I do love you with all my heart and with all my being, and I will be seeing you again soon. Until then, Eai, Oyai. As it is, so it is. Ohami to all beings.